All right, let's draw for turn. We're here to bring you commander insight and hot tech to level up your game. Each episode focuses on a different topic with our four-person pod to give you all our spicy take. It's been a couple weeks. We're hanging out. What's new? What's going on, guys? Not everyone jumping at once.
All right. Well, Time Spiral Remastered just released. If you guys missed it, I played a game of baseball with Sean with our booster boxes and lost, of course. So that means I have to build the infamous and much talked about Gently Screaming Lizard's Tribal Commander deck. I'm looking forward to. I mean, it's not the worst punishment, I suppose. Although it means I had to go buy cards that I wasn't planning on buying, but whatever.
Hey, you signed up for the bet.
I signed on to the deal. So I mean,
yeah.
I mean, at least
what I wanted.
There's no hard deadline. Like, do it affordably over time. It doesn't need to be like next week.
Yeah, no, I'll get it done. But it just goes to show you never play games with Sean if they don't involve skill.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I played a bunch of...
Baseball is luck, first of all. That's what the point I'm trying to make.
Fair.
I say games that don't involve skill.
If there's anything we've learned about Sean opening packs and winning contests and things that involve luck, Sean is going to win.
I was mainly leaning toward like, don't play games of luck with Sean if you think you can beat him. You cannot.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Case in point, we've played the Lurking Predators game with him multiple times on stream, and that seems to go pretty well for us constantly.
Well,
what is that?
I mean, he's a winner for getting to resolve the card anyway.
It's a 6-mana do nothing enchantment, but whenever your opponents cast a non-creature spell, you flip the top card of your library. If it's creature, put it into play.
It's like one of those cards that's been around in the format for a long time. And I remember the first time I saw it, it's like, wait, what's this do? And it did exactly what they said it did, which is get better because there's 3 other people playing the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's fun. Okay, it's fun.
So of course I put it directly into my El the Anima, which was my only commander deck back in 2011. It worked out pretty good. EK's been doing a little extra side streaming for side commander streaming. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, we had Glory, I believe the series is called.
Yeah, it's just what I call the stream. It's no series or anything. But we had a 45-minute stack the other night.
Yeah, it sounds intense.
Yeah.
it was straight up tomfoolery because there was a Wheel of Fortune with 2 Smothering Tithes out on the table, and there was an Underrealm Lich and a Gitrog going at the same, and lands that were cycling, and like because people were wheeled into more instants, like even after the wheel resolved, like there's just like more and more and more happening. It was honestly really cool.
Sounds like fun.
I dig it.
But it literally took 45 minutes to do one main phase. Granted, the game ended after it eventually.
I would say so, because someone got, 21x3 treasures out of it?
I mean, it wasn't about the treasure, it was just about getting the cards.
Oh, well. And the person who had Underrealm Witch got to see what?
They didn't win.
Well, they got to see 21 cards though. So
yeah, they were like in the single digits for deck size by the end of the game. It was like a 9-turn game, so it was a little longer than we were used to. You know what made it so complicated? So there was an Underrealm Lich doing replacement effects, but there was also Dredge happening as well.
Yeah, that's why, because of the Gitrog monster. Yeah, you had optional Dredge triggers.
Yeah.
Well, because a Dakmor and a Life from the Loam eventually ended up getting into the mix as well. Yeah. And that's really what made it complicated.
I love complex interactions in this game, but I'm kind of glad I wasn't there for that, because I wouldn't have wanted to be there to sort it out.
No, so it got to the point, so like Surreal was eliminated from the game, right?
Ooh.
So like we just turned his playmat into the stack, and his entire playmat was just covered with cards and tokens to keep track of the stack. It was, like I said, it was great.
That's awesome, because drawing multiple cards and the dredge mechanic is enough to get a judge called on you in like a one-on-one game that's super simple as the only interaction. Like, you can't imagine all this other stuff going on as well.
Yeah, the tithe part was actually the easy part.
Yeah, because that was after the fact. So like, none of you guys can pay for it, so I make 14 treasures. Voy makes 28 because he's got a anointed procession. And then like the best part of the game was, so Voy didn't win on his turn, and then if Surreal didn't die like right then and there first, he was going to win on his next turn. And then if Surreal didn't win and Voy didn't win, then Ian won. And if those 3 players didn't win, then I won on my next turn. Like, that's how cutthroat and close the game was.
So did the person with 28 treasures win the game?
Yes,
14.
and not because of the treasures.
Right, but I was gonna say, if I ever was told you're gonna make 28 treasures, and then the next part was you're gonna lose the game, I was like, I don't understand how that's possible. To tell the person that they made 14 treasures and lost the game, that is some luck. Like, my God.
Sean, that game that we played with Saucy way back when, I made 120 something treasures in Sirgwin.
I think it was 100.
I didn't get to
140.
No, I didn't even get to untap.
Yeah, the game just ended.
The table was just like, you have 140 treasures and a Sun Forger. We can't let you untap.
Yeah. Speaking of treasures, my latest creation, the Breaches and Malcolm quote unquote pirates air quotes deck, where I didn't plan on having any infinites in it, as we've now found 2
so far.
So far,
but they've been fun, and they've been there's an infinite. It's fun.
Yeah, it's not like I only run I run 1 tutor in the deck, and it's gamble, so I'm never guaranteed to get it an infinite.
You've oopsed into them multiple times.
Well, and
like you've stumbled into something that just so happens to be an infinite. It's not even like a intended. It's just like, wait, there's an infinite here.
I do like that deck very much, though. It's unfortunately meaning it's pretty much taking the place of the Izzet deck in my folio of decks instead of Joyra, because I really don't have anywhere to play Joyra. So, I know Sean's been getting into a lot of games, interesting games and magics of the sort lately. Like, you bought, we did the one TSR box, but then you had another box, and then you had a double masters box, which all paid for themselves. Which is of course always netted in the positive for Sean, because this is what happens. Like, if you ever Sean's now saying he's going to open up a business where he opens up your packs for you and you pay him to do it.
I'm going to call it the Draw for Turn local game store.
It's an incredibly lucrative idea.
It works.
That's our LGS. We open your packs.
Yes.
Yeah.
We buy your packs and supply you the singles. That's the Draw for Turn motto.
That's what Cassius Marsh's shop will do. They'll you can pay to have him open up your box on stream, and then like sign a card and send you the box.
Oh, like how Rudy does with Alpha Investments when you buy stuff from him.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, same idea. They have a whole team. They're not just doing Magic. They'll open like your Pokemon boxes or your sports card boxes too.
That's pretty sweet. I dig that model. Like, it's an interesting way for a person to get exposure. Like, you're producing content and you're delivering some fun to someone.
Well, that's content. That's content production 101. Yeah. Double dip where you can.
I will say we went in mild with the box toppers that you got, but then everything just picked up immediately.
Yeah, I can't say I was overly impressed with the box. I mean, the War and Peace was cool. There's this tower. That's my third one.
It's whatever. Yeah.
I've gotten 3. That Out of the 3 Double Master products I've gotten,
we can't even make Tron.
I've gotten the same one 3 times. But yeah, no, honestly, it's I mean, for me, the last 2 weeks, it's just been buying boxes. It was fun. Each box paid for itself, and I walked away with, ironically, I have a playset of Tarmogoyf, which the last time that happened was Time Spiral and Future Sight, and I sold them all, and I'm not doing that this time.
So you're a modern player again, is what you're saying?
Yes, I'm going to jump on.
Never wasn't.
Well, it's true.
Never wasn't.
I've never not, but yeah, that was me. What about you, Swazzle? What have you been up to?
He didn't hear you.
I heard him. I was out of town for the past couple of days, just kind of recharging, getting away from work. Haven't really played much Magic. Yeah, actually, I've done nothing Magic related. I need to really pick it up.
You got an escape is the big thing, and that's something the rest of us can't say.
It was really nice to get away from work. Spring break is killing us down here. So
oh yeah.
Is that
outside of that though? I have watched a lot of, I don't know why, I have watched a lot of legacy content lately. Just change of pace.
It's because is it because I got you onto it because of my binging of Brad Nelson and BBD legacy content?
No, I watch a lot of Bryant Cook videos, and he just plays a ton of legacy. So
yeah, that works.
Really want to. It's interesting because it's like the one format I really want to play, and the one format that I will never own a paper deck in. Like, what's short of winning the lottery?
Oh yes. Oh, speaking of legacy, Swazo, I know you as I'm modern in this case. I found out today that after apparently weeks of no one telling me that Death Shadow is in historic and it's not that great.
Yeah, there's no Teamer Battle Rage, so like the big finisher card's just not there.
Oh, but also you can't drop your life title. You can't drop your life total that easily in the format either.
You can shock Thoughtseize, you just can't fetch shock Thoughtseize.
Yeah, but you have the modal lands as well. It's just not as viable as in modern. That's
because you don't have Phyrexian mana or Stream Raid, that kind of stuff.
Well,
God willing, we'll never get Dismember. And
which brings me to my next point. Put Street Wraith in historic.
That I think that would skyrocket that Shadows deck.
It would. It absolutely would.
It would be so good. Because to your point, the modal
what if we just
shock lands that shock you for 3, the bolt lands, I like to call them, like that. That's
what if we just reprinted? Okay, sorry, you say what if we just reprinted?
What if we just reprinted the fetches, you cowards?
They won't do it for historic.
It's easy.
For historic, that makes it like the barrier of entry to play as I need fetches.
It's you already need
30 rare lands, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say you already need 50 rare wild cards to make a historic deck to begin with. The only thing that's changing is you need to use your wild cards on different things now.
I guess. Anyway, let's transition real quick. No real news to speak of today. They did some Strixhaven previews, and then the preview vignette comes out on the 25th, I think. So Thursday.
Yeah, 25th.
This week. We did get a couple preview cards, and we found out where Liliana went. So if you're interested in that, go check out the Magic Twitter. I'm sure it's all over the internet now. You can check out the preview cards there. We won't talk about them too much now because there's only, 2 that were actually spoiled, I think. But I'm sure Sean's very happy to hear that Elder Dragons are back. Yay.
Always. But yeah. One of them is Planeswalker.
Oh, well, that's good.
In human form.
Oh.
That's one of the spoilers that came out.
Greetings, dragons. It is I, also a dragon.
Something like that.
All right, so let's get into today's topic. This is our finance episode, aka how to afford Commander, aka the rising cost of Magic the Gathering, aka everything related to spending money in Magic the Gathering currently.
So those fetches you've always wanted,
but you don't need.
But yeah, the you don't need, the duels you've heard about, that Gaia's Cradle. that
you don't need either.
the basic land that you've
I
always
think
wanted.
that's going to be.
I'm tired of you telling me what I don't need.
I was going to say, I think that you don't need it is going to be a very common thing said this episode.
So
I agree.
let's just preface this by saying that Magic the Gathering has never been more popular than it is now. It's also never been more expensive than it is before, especially if you're a Commander player, because this is an eternal format, and there are a lot of really pricey cards you can get your hands on that you're allowed to play with. We've seen cards rise from. I remember when Gilded Drake was like a bulk rare, and now is in the $300 range.
Dude, seriously, it's so many.
Because of the existence of the format, it made cards that were normally not good or not played or not desired by anyone now desired by actually the masses, as Commander is still is now, as of the recording of this podcast, this episode of the podcast, the most popular format in Magic the Gathering, and I don't think
it's not even close.
It's not even close, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. As far as holding the title of this is the most popular format kind of thing.
It because it is the most popular format, it straight up dictates the secondary market. Yeah.
So let's just get down to basics. Magic is in its own a supply and demand economic is a economic market. As long as there is
can I preface your preface by saying none of us have any like major vested interest in MTGFinance.
Yes,
like,
none of us really.
I have a minor in economics and finance from in my degree, but that's the extent of my like vested interest in Magic Finance.
I buy boxes.
I understand it more than anything.
Yeah, Sean's economic contribution to Magic Gathering. He buys packs. He opens money.
I was gonna say there's always the big problem of when a set is released. It happened with Modern Horizons. The cards get so expensive because people aren't opening packs. They're hoarding the boxes or just buying singles. Sean is here to change that narrative single-handedly.
Well, that also happened with Magic Online as well. Like Ren 6 was like a $300 card on Magic Online.
Yeah, it was up there for the longest time.
I mean, even up until recently, Uro was a $200 Magic card on Magic Online. Like, you need your weekly rental allowance had to be a minimum of $800 just to have the 4 Uros for your decks.
It's a reason that I've never done any of the rental services on MTGO, despite how much I love playing Modern and now getting into Legacy. I can't build the decks I want because one card takes up my whole budget. It's crazy.
Yeah. As a supply and demand economic environment, does in theory price some players out of playing certain cards, unfortunately, because certain cards are in very high demand and have very low supply. Namely, looking at you, reserve list cards. But that's not to say. So I guess the big thing is where do we go from here? What do you think is the best way to solve this problem of rising prices? I know Magic has been WotC's been doing an okay job getting reprints out in a lot of their non-standard products. Do you think that's the way going forward? Do you think there are other ways that this can be done?
I think it's a great way to start. It's an optional way to explore. I mean, granted, those example products, like let's look at the Masters products, are generally priced as like, a quote unquote premium because the high value cards are in there. And yes, like they are. But that entire secondary market is driven by the player base. And in promoting this as a premium product, that is also just driving those prices to be a higher amount still. I do think, though, at least those reprints are a start to getting prices down to make them more affordable. I know, like in a bit, we'll be discussing some other ways to keep your eye out for affordable singles, but that's where I would start. I think, yes, it's a good start.
I mean, so my big thing that I've been saying to a lot of people recently, because they're like, I don't want to spend $40 on like a Smothering Tithe, or I don't want to spend $40 on a sword of whatever and whatever, because they're all getting expensive. My biggest thing has just been like, you don't need to play those cards if you.
No, you don't. You know, you're right.
It's.
If
you just want to play, you don't have to play those cards. If you want to play at a certain level, in terms of greasiness and power and stuff like that, it's kind of a different story. But at a bare minimum, like, you don't need a Cradle, you don't need a Serra Sanctum, you don't need dual lands, you don't need fetch lands, like all of these super Omega premium cards. You don't necessarily need them. Does that change the kinds of things that you can play? Yes. Like, realistically, for the like Steven and I, when we were building your cast deck, you were just like, yeah, I'm not buying a Lion's Eye Diamond. And I was like, well, guess you're not playing Breach.
Yeah, drop the whole package from the deck because I didn't feel like paying for it.
But you found an alternative. Because when your format has 20,000 cards that are legal, there's always going to be an alternative to some expensive option that's going to be affordable within your budget.
So I'll give you an example of that. I remember when I first started, when I first came back in 2019, started playing Commander again. I remember I had a Tassiger deck that I built, and I couldn't afford. I wanted to make it like budgety, like I didn't want to spend $100. So I said $100 is the limit. I'm not sure if I'm going to like this, so let's go with that. And so I really wanted to play Ristic Study, but you can't really afford Ristic Study when you're on a $100 budget, because that's a third of your money. But you can't afford stuff like Monastery Siege, which is $1 or less, which is in theory, a little bit of extra draw. Not quite the same, but good enough.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like a good enough. People always use Growing Rites of Itlimoc as like the quote unquote budget replacement for Gaia's Cradle. But even that is still like a $30-something card because it's the budget Gaia's Cradle, and Gaia's Cradle is what it is.
On the need versus want topic, before we move on from that, I do think a lot of that is determined by your play group. Like, if everyone else is playing 8s, 9s, and 10s on whatever scale you're using to do it, you're gonna need some of those more expensive cards because your budget options are gonna be too slow. And like, I don't I don't mean things like a Gaia's Cradle. I'm never gonna say you need a $2,000 card. Okay, no. You just never do. But there are the Smothering Tithe example. You need that if you're in white and you're on one of those sweaty tables.
Yeah, like, there's no replacement for Smothering Tithe. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's the only thing of its nature in that color. Like,
because they flat out say that Smothering Tithe is a blatant color break for white.
Mm-hmm.
That's besides the point. I need to get that jab in there.
You need to touch that.
I don't. Yeah, I think your group does determine that a little bit.
But like, so like, touching on the power level of a card though. So like, power level of a table can dictate the expense of cards, but you don't always need to run the expensive cards to play at a power level high table. Right? Like, sorry, yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say, typically, from my experience, the higher up you go in a power level on a table, the more pro proxy a group is going to be, because they understand, that Lion's Eye Diamond, that's a $500 card. That Mox Diamond, that's a $600 card. That Cradle, that's what, $1,300 now, just from 3 cards that we've talked about in like most like in one deck, which is like a fairly popular competitive deck, the Selvala deck. That's $2,400 on 3 cards. Like, that's just unrealistic to show up and say, well, you didn't drop $2,400, you can't play with us. People want to play.
Sure.
At the end of the day, And Legacy is the same way. I mean, I think it's great that Steven brought that example up, brings it up pretty constantly because it's a very relevant example. People literally cannot play the format because those cards are so hard to get that they say, okay, proxy it. Put some effort into it, but proxy it because we want to be able to play our format.
Any LGS that I've ever played Legacy at allowed me to have up to 10 proxies in a 60 card deck. Like, that's insane to think that the barrier to entry is so high. We're going to let you proxy a sixth of your deck.
Well, just if you, I hate to say it, but what it comes down to is, in order for formats to keep living, you need to have new players coming in because eventually people will leave, and if there's not someone to fill the void, then eventually there will be nothing left.
And that's why if you guys notice, because I've certainly noticed, the rise of CEDH over the last year and a half, 2 years, has also coincided in the rise of higher quality proxies, people putting effort into proxies, people proxying in general, because they want to be able to play their format at the power. They're part of our format. Let me rephrase that because it's the same format. Yeah. They want to be able to play their sect of our format the way they want to, and they can't expect someone to show up with a $6,000 deck, because if you average out a lot of those CEDH decks, they're thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
and it's all because of the same culprits.
Yeah, as someone who used to own a CEDH deck, I can say that that's pretty true. Like, I owned Anjay Falconwrath for a good while, and even that wasn't in the thousands of dollars, but it wasn't cheap. And it was. There were certainly ways that you could make it more expensive too. Well, if I wanted to use like blingier versions of certain cards or what have you, but like you were running all the typical, all the usual suspects as far as your fast mana, like your mana vaults, your mana crypts, your Lion's Eye diamonds, your chrome moxes, that kind of stuff like that, and that all adds up.
Yeah, I mean that's over $1,000 just to make mana to play the game. That's not even the cards that play the game.
Yeah, and most of the deck was a lot of Crummy Madness cards because that's what you do when you play Anjay and C. But there were also some, and like the WinCon was not the flashiest. It's World War. It was World War Dragon, so it wasn't exactly like, but it wasn't like, it wasn't an expensive. Like the rest of the deck wasn't very expensive. It was mostly just mana. So making mana is really what the expensive part is. So the good news is you have lots of other choices in that area, so you can trim down that. But there are other choices that is not so obvious. Like, example, like, is there a card similar to Gaia's Cradle? Really? No. There is, like Growing Rights,
but it's not fast enough.
The Growing Rights Inalama thing is a conditional Gaia's Cradle. Like, you may get to see a Gaia's Cradle, you may not. Obviously,
which is why I say in a lot of cases, the grease you get, it might just not be fast enough. It is an alternative, but it just might not be fast enough for what you're trying to do or what the table is trying to do.
Yeah, right. Which really brings me to my next point: is the reserve list is the problem because of the clause of no reprinting quote form or function. So that means even if they wanted to print something that was like Gaia's Cradle, for example, they couldn't do that, really.
Right. I mean, we saw, for example, like Wheel of Misfortune. They have to get creative about the approach, but I mean, a Wheel of Misfortune is, it's not a Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah. But it's an approach that they're doing, at least to attempt that. But I would agree, like, the reserve list as it stands, this is going to get taken a lot of different ways, but the reserve list creates a barrier on cards because they can never be reprinted. That's it. That's done. Their price is only ever going to go up. That's where that hits.
Well, and that because you have in the world of the finance world, you have people who are just buying and holding and selling reserve list cards like stocks. Even no matter how good or bad they are, you have to pay $28 to buy Wood Elemental. Wood Elemental is a terrible card. One of the 10 worst cards in Magic the Gathering by far. Like, and the fact that it's $28 simply because it's a reserve list card is unbelievable. Like, this card should be in bulk bins across the states and across the world. For those of you who don't know, Wood Elemental is a 4-mana a star that its P&T is based on the number of untapped forests you sacrifice when you play it. So, at best, you would need 5 mana to make a 1/1. Like, or if you had just lands as your mana producers, you would need 5 forests and 1 stays untapped, and to make a 1/1 for 4. So just to give you an idea of just how bad this card is, but it is a reserve list card, just as is Sorrow's Path, another top 10 really bad reserve list cards.
Oh, but so like from an I'm going to stray away from a pure economics perspective, from an aesthetic perspective. There are, collectors and stonksters out there who are like, yeah, I own X amount of like one of the worst cards ever printed, and there's a novelty to that.
Yeah. But the fact that it's never going to see a reprint makes it automatically expensive. And yes, there are those cards that obviously no CEDH player would want to go after, like those. But there are ones that they do, so and that creates a problem. Like in the case of Gilded Drake, this is a unique blue effect that basically the easiest control magic in blue you can play, and you can't get them. Like, you can't get them cheaply. They're $300 now. I remember when they used to be $15, and I thought that was expensive. But little did I know.
I mean, and here's an even more innocent example: Cabal coffers.
Yeah,
that's
I remember
even just a couple of years ago was was a rare binder card, single digits, and now it's a $60-$70 card.
Yeah, and
solely because of Commander. Yeah, and it's an uncommon, like you just said. Solely because of Commander, the price has gone up over 1,000%. That's how significant the influence of Commander is on the market.
Yeah.
So to segue, it is cause for players to get creative on how they acquire cards.
Yeah, I would also say, like, because of there's also, like, and Swazo can probably agree with this, there's a lot of crossover. Like, certain cards are very much desired in both formats. Like, example, like, I remember me and Sean were opening Time Spiral Remastered, and we were like, time-shifted bordered foil Ponder is $300. Mm-hmm. And I said, my friend Matt was asking me why, and this, like, regular Ponder time-shifted border is $20. And my friend Matt was like, why is that? I said, because multiple formats want it. And, like, I think you share space. You share spaces with a lot of the other formats, like mostly Modern, Legacy, Vintage. Not so much Vintage, really. Modern, Legacy, you share a lot of space with Commander, as I'm sure Swazo could tell you. A lot of those cards find their way into both.
Ponder is such a good card. It's like one of the best blue cantrips ever made.
Honestly, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but because of the demand of I'll just give an example, like dual lands and fetch lands, because they're needed in all the Eternal formats for the most part. You have multiple markets competing for the same thing.
Well, and it's not that it's not just that the other 60 card formats need them; they need 4 ofs.
Right,
they need 4 times the amount of copies that you need to play Commander.
So the example we used earlier in our pre-show, Death Shadow, we were talking about, or maybe that was in the beginning.
We were talking about it in the beginning of the show, yeah.
Yeah.
That deck is entirely fetch lands and like one of the shocks that it needs. Because it's like in Commander, you get away with playing 1, 2, 3 of them maybe, and they still don't need them. You can play all of them, the off-color ones, I get it, but like I play just the on-color ones in my cast deck, just 3. But in Death Shadow, I would need like 12 plus just to build the deck. So to your point, yeah, not even just to build the deck, to build the deck and show up and not get laughed at. Yeah. That's like a fraction of the mana base. I don't even have a deck yet.
Yeah, and like that's the more like that's the cost where it's going to go. I mean, a lot of times in different, it doesn't matter what format you're in. Your land base is primarily your most expensive part of the deck. For the higher you go or the more eternal format you go, the land base is going to be your more expensive part. Like we've kind of touched on expensive cards, some ways to kind of get around. I mean, proxies are a good idea. Playgroup allows it. But let's say we've got to get to this place where there is the key cards you want to find. What is a good way to find cards on an affordable budget? Where do you
want to
look?
start? Where do you want to start? Because
before we let EK take the realm on the reins on this one, because he's got the answers, I would like to preface it with some of these cards, there is no good way to get them.
Yes,
and that's why that's a
caveat
where you need to start.
Yes.
There is no good way to get a Gaia's Cradle. Period.
Which is why if it shows up in one of the couple of ways that I'm going to mention, chances are you're probably going to want to pounce on it. But yeah, I can think of like 4 insanely good ways and very thrifty ways to ball on a budget and get the cards that you're looking for.
All right, let's hear it.
Like, number 1, Facebook and like Facebook buy groups.
Yeah. Like, I will say, if you're trying to ball on a budget, going through a store is not how you're going to do it. I hate to say it,
and I will agree with that.
Not every store.
Not every store. Most stores you will not be able to make your budget.
Peer to peer is still going to be the number 1 way. But the thing with going peer to peer is the supply is typically extremely inconsistent.
Yeah, it's small. Like if you see something you want, you need to act quickly.
That was what I was going to preface this point with, is that no, it doesn't take. You're going to need your wallet. You're going to need some resourcefulness. You're going to have to have
the PayPal app open. Like
it's going to take hours of searching, patience to find that deal. If the deal was always out there, everyone else would have already bought it. Okay?
Exactly.
So you got to wait for it.
Yeah, I'd almost say it's like a craft. Like honestly, you have to treat finding a good budget in that sort of circumstance as a craft. It takes finesse and good areas to search to find what you're looking for.
And what I'm gonna grow this point even further. By combining networks together, you are able to increase your reach and your efficiency to find such a thing. So you use a combination of Facebook buy groups and then, card market, making a friend in Europe, or getting a German mail forwarding box, which is the super secret tech, by the way. That's the one that like people don't know about that you can do. So European card prices are drastically different than North American and South American prices, especially on legacy staples. If you're going to get those dual lands or that cradle or some of your even your commander staples and stuff like that, looking at card market and then getting a German mailbox for a month, you will save hundreds of dollars extremely quickly by the sheer fact that their market is just different than ours.
Yeah.
So another way you can save money is this is kind of not actually buying cards, but this is, if you want to, and I've done this before. I guess this is a 1.5 onto what EK said. You could do what's called like Razes, which is raffles on Facebook. There's a lot of people groups that do that.
The grab bags.
Well, not that. It's like someone will put a card up. For example, like I'll put up. Let's say I want to put up a Cabal Coffers, right? And I want to put it up for a raffle, as opposed to me trying to sell the card to you for. Let's say I want to make the card's worth $60 or something like that, and I want to make like 50, right? I can open up 10 raffle slots at $5 each. Or I can set a buy it now price for you to buy the card from me right away. If there's enough people who do the raffle, one of the admins from the Facebook group does pulls the raffle, and then someone gets sent the card and they manage the transaction. So there's someone in the middle who knows what's going on. I see people do that, but it is basically gambling, so I don't want to advocate AK for that. But it's something you can do.
Yeah, I think, and like you're not guaranteed to get the card. I will say it is straight up gambling.
I will say I've maybe won like two Razes since I've done that. So and I've done maybe like a dozen. Well, maybe more than that actually. But I haven't. It's been like $3 here, $5, or not like an insane amount of money has been lost. Like I just
it's no different than going to your gas station and getting a scratch off.
Pretty much, yeah.
More or less, yeah.
If you don't care if you throw $5 and get nothing, then that more power to you. Again, this is not, I would say, the most legitimate way to get these cards, but it is something that people do. I'm not saying it's illegal either because it's actually completely fair. As far as like
the ones that I've seen that do stuff like that, they're just like, hey, we're gonna like what the professor does. You donate to Trans Lifeline, donate to the Houston Food Bank or something like that, and then everyone who donates above a certain amount gets entered in to like win all of these raffle prizes that are donated and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Again, it is potentially a way to get things, but it's not gonna get you exactly what you want. But what might get you exactly what you want, in the same vein as going to Card Market, going on Facebook, is actually using Twitter to get your cards.
Twitter's a huge one.
Twitter is insane.
There's a whole hashtag for it. Hashtag MTG buy sell. And you just scroll through it and people just like, hey, selling these cards. Here's the prices. DM me. We'll figure it out. And,
I literally cannot go a day without EK showing us some ridiculous deals that he's found.
Yeah.
I don't even partake in most of them, but I'm always curious. And it's like I said earlier, it's building that network. It's a craft to find deals and find consistent deals on the things that you're actually looking for. Guys like Mark Nestico, Harry and Harry's House of Cards, Liz, aka Devoted Druid, who now works with Mark and Rusty while doing her own stuff on the side too. They're dealing, a lot of the stuff that they advertise is some of the more higher end stuff, but they have like everything. But there's guys like Giveaway Station and Plutch and like 3 or 4 other guys who are selling like your new in print like Kaldheim singles and stuff like that. Just like, hey, open the box. I don't need these cards. Here's the prices. DM me, and you're usually saving 20-25% off your singles, if not more.
Yeah, especially if you want to get like really flashy ones, like
like seriously, so many people are trying to offload their Pringles. If you know how to take care of your Pringles and like unpringle them, you can save some serious cash. If you're into that foil kind of thing. Most people aren't.
Yeah. And I think the one I thought of, and I guess the problem is like, I don't know if you can really say this is a way to save money. If there's like a card you want and you can get it in gold border at a good price, just buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, Adam,
I would say
here's
the thing. People are catching on to gold borders and artist proofs. Mm-hmm. For a while, there were a lot of gold borders and artist proofs that were cheaper than their actual printing, and they've actually been subject to buyouts.
Yeah, like example, like when I bought my cradle way back, I remember you could get a gold border cradle for $80, which at the time was expensive, but it wasn't $300.
Yeah, it's a huge difference.
Or another example, I remember I wanted to get a Survival of the Fittest, and Survival of the Fittest at the time was like $100. You can get I got a gold border one for $10, for example. The problem is that these gold border cards will eventually, the supply will dwindle.
People are already starting to see them dwindle. The cradle in particular is the price of the normal cradle a year ago. It's like a $300, $400.
Yeah, it's
but it is, and we should say those are technically not tournament legal because they don't have the proper magic back and they are specified to be a gold border. But with Rule 0, you have the power to use those in your Commander games.
Yeah, like
It's perfect.
I can't think of any group that says no. I don't want. Well, I won't let you play with gold border cards.
Yeah.
Every time I've seen someone show up with and say like, "Hey, I'm playing Goldberg," it's like, dude,
I'll
that's
put it this
really
way.
cool. Those are hard to find.
I'll put it this way, like I'm basically subject to using proxies a lot, but if I can play with this is an underground C that is not that I got from a proxy print that was printed as a proxy for me with a different art, so I know so it doesn't look like a counterfeit. If I can play with this, you can play with a real gold bordered cradle.
Yeah, it was made, and that's kind of the angle that I take with artist proofs as well. They were technically made by wizards.
Yeah,
they do not. They have a different back, but they are in some capacity a product made by the people that make the game that we love.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
They don't have this. They don't have the square. Yeah, like they're not even like the collector's edition stuff. They don't have the square edges. They look like they look and feel like a real Magic the Gathering trading card.
Because outside of the back, they are.
Well,
and an artist proof doesn't have the little foil oval.
Okay, so yeah, for those of you who may not be known, EK is a wizard of this. No pun. Can you explain to the folks listening what exactly is an artist proof and how you go about getting one?
So an artist proof is a super limited I would call it like a premium collector thing. So there are 30 foils made and 50 non-foils made of each card printed after a certain time in Magic's history. So when I say like I have one of 30 foil Craterhoof behemoths in the world, I literally have one of 30 foil Craterhoof behemoth artist proofs in the world. They will never print more of that particular printing, but every time they reprint, that Craterhoof behemoth, there are 50 more non-foils and 30 more foils put into the ecosystem.
Yeah,
typically you get them from the artists directly or from their agents.
Yep.
And because they have a blank white back, you can get like sketches and like make them a proper one of one in the world. So
it's kind of like getting an altar, basically.
Yeah.
But except they alter the back instead of the front.
They alter the back instead of the front, and it's done by the artist who made the card originally.
Well, and I think that adds a little bit of specialty to the card. Like you just said, it kind of turns it into a one of its own kind. And I mean, if Commander is anything aside from, being casual, it's a way to kind of showcase some of your favorite cards, ways you like to play, what you like to do. So having that kind of special card in an affordable way.
No, but here's the thing. For the most part, because of their scarcity, because there's only so many of them, in most cases, you will end up paying more. In most cases. Every once in a while, you'll run into, people offloading them through auctions and stuff like that, and you might be able to get them cheaper. But for the most part, people kind of know, the people who are invested in artist proofs and stuff like that know the actual value of the proper card. So that card won't go for anything less than what the card is worth normally.
That's true.
So you don't always save money on proofs, but there's a good amount of time.
However, I did get a Great Henge for $25 today.
Yeah, it's like a Great Henge is what, $60 now?
70?
Yeah. Again, anomaly, and I got one of the last ones. So, you might not be able to get that deal tomorrow.
So those are a little harder to get.
But again, by being vigilant, using your, building a network and, just being social, talking to other collectors and stuff like that, that's basically what it boils down to, saving money. Just takes effort.
I guess the last way you can save money is, I think I know me and Swaza and I guess Ike, and I guess we've all done this at some point. There's always, I think we talked about it earlier. The proxy route is always a good way to save money. Like,
yeah,
I want to play with my friends. I don't want to play with my friends' wallets. So
I will even go one step above on the professionalism of proxying. If you are dead set on buying the cards, proxy before you buy. I don't know how much money I have saved on cards just by proxying them before I buy them and realize, this card isn't the card that I want. I've probably saved hundreds and hundreds of dollars proxying and playtesting cards that way before I buy them. And realizing this card is just not good for the deck, or it doesn't do what I wanted it to do. And I'm glad that I didn't buy the card.
Yeah, I think I want to add an asterisk to this though. If you're going to proxy a card, unless you're just gonna, Swazi, when you proxy cards for Legacy, like how do you usually do it?
It depends on what level we're playing at here. Like, am I just sleeving up the deck so that I can have something to physically...
Let's say you're going to an event, for example. Let's pretend in the world we're going to an event and we're allowed to bring proxies, but they have to look kind of legit. They can't just be a Sharpie on a basic land.
Okay, well, that was gonna say, what are we doing here? Because the first thing I would do is draw on an island.
Yeah.
So...
There are different levels of effort put into proxying, and yes. I'm an advocate of put the effort in. Your opponents will thank you later.
Make it look good.
100%.
Swaz, I think Swaz will probably agree with this. You would just print the card out from your printer and then slide it in a sleeve, like we're about to demonstrate.
I think that would be definitely the first step, one of the easiest ways for sure. If you don't have something like that, they do make these white blank cards. Yeah, that'll be another option, like a proxy kind of card like that.
Those white blank cards are actually made by wizards themselves.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, printing it out off the printer, just slide in a sleeve. You really can't tell when you're shuffling. It's cheap, it's effective. Everyone can read the card and know what it does. The fact that it has rules text is pretty important.
You know what I've actually seen some people starting to do? They are drawing on infinite tokens and sleeving infinite tokens.
Oh,
that's cool. You have a limited amount of proxies that way. And you can make a proxy for anything you want,
Exactly. You can make it on the fly, and you can, you put some hand-drawn effort into it, and, a little personal touch.
I have been going around, me and a couple of my friends are going around, they have printers who you can contact who will print a proxy card for you. I make sure to get a card that does not. So let me put an asterisk to this. If you're going to proxy a card, unless like a physical card, this looks and feels like a real card. Like this card is, again, we'll go back to the Underground Sea. This looks and feels like a real Magic card. This is not a real Magic card. This has never existed in Magic before. Make sure it doesn't look like a counterfeit, and don't try to pass it off as such.
Because proxying is such a gray area, there is a really quick fine line between counterfeiting and proxying.
Yeah.
We are in no means advocating to counterfeit.
We do not advocate counterfeiting cards. Yeah,
that's against the fan content policy. Even then,
it's just bad. Nothing ever good comes out of counterfeiting.
Exactly.
Everybody I know who has tried to pass off a counterfeit card has not ended well for them.
And it doesn't end well for them quickly either. They get, extracurricular activities tossed onto them usually.
Yeah.
And it stems further too. So there will be places where you might find. I'll use Wish for example for anyone that's ever ordered off it. You can buy proxies off of Wish for $5-10 for a stack of 100.
You can get them off Etsy too.
You can.
You should not be paying people directly for proxies.
You should be. Yeah, 100%. You should not be paying directly for proxies, especially if the card looks directly like it is, because then that, for all intents and purposes, is a counterfeit. Proxy is fine. Maybe getting a special art done of the proxy, sure, but as soon as you pay money, that's a gray area.
It escalates very, very quickly.
Yes.
And should be avoided wherever possible.
Absolutely. That was the only point I wanted to tie in. It doesn't take long before you can go from a proxy to a counterfeit as soon as money comes involved. If you're gonna proxy 100%, find a friend to help you with a printer or print it yourself. But
you can get any ink. I know I follow a couple of different art very artistic proxy makers on Twitter and stuff like that, like the Proxy Guy and Sheepwave. You know, everything that they're doing is just done on a regular like inkjet printer. If you have a regular inkjet printer, it's just, you know, to do what they do with like the nice foiling and everything like that is just a sense of craft. You know, you and your friends can make those really nice proxies, you know, yourselves with a printer. And, you know, through trial and error, you can get to the point that, you know, that they do.
Yeah. So I guess we'll do the last of this. Like reprint, are reprints coming out fast enough of these key cards that people want for Commander? And how would you change it if it? What would you do to change it if it wasn't?
I don't think there's an answer for how to change it, but I know the answer is no. It's not fast enough. But I don't know if it'll ever be fast enough for the amount of people consuming the product.
To go back to the supply demand kind of baseline, the supply can't keep up with the demand, aka the growth of the format of the game and everything like that. As of right now, it can't.
It does feel like
but on the other hand, that's a good problem for Magic to have. They are growing incredibly fast.
Yeah, that means
in a time where people thought that, you know, a pandemic would quote unquote be the death of Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a pretty solid example. The pandemic retired me from Magic and unretired me from Magic, all in the same like go. Because I'm strictly a competitive tournament player, and now I just literally only play Commander with you guys and everyone else, and it's so much fun. So like, it's something everyone can do, which makes it incredibly hard to keep up with.
No, I'll expand on Swazzle's point too. Like I'd agree. And like EK saying, supply and demand. Demand is there, supply is not. I don't think there's a good solution to really try to approach that problem right now, especially because as soon as you try to oversaturate a market, then you just kill it and it dies, and then everything flusters, and then it's a negative return. Like I mentioned earlier in the episode, I think they're approaching it right by doing the reprints when they can in the sets. I think the supply could be better, but I don't know the right distribution amount to get there.
It's not your job. You're not your job to figure it out either. You can armchair and provide your commentary, but at the end of the day, it's not your job to know what's best.
I'm just
to figure out what's best either. Exactly.
Yeah, we're just players. We know we like certain cards and we know what works. We wish there was more.
But one day there will be.
Yeah.
But for now, all you can do is just wait. And I think the best thing you can do is when a lot of people are like, oh, it's we're all usually pretty happy when a reprint that we want comes out. Like we were all very happy to see Vampiric Tutor come back in Commander Legends, for example.
Definitely.
I mean, what we saw with Mana Crypt, though. Granted, Mana Crypt is a very particular example because like every deck can play Mana Crypt, but the price of Mana Crypt, despite having 2 reprints in the last year, is the same.
Yeah. Oh, it's still. There's more copies of it around. If you want one, you can get it. But
the demand has far exceeded the influx.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that covers all the finance topics we could talk about this episode. But what do you guys think?
The ones that we feel qualified.
The ones that we feel that matter. Yeah. What are your guys' experiences with MTGFinance? Are you an MTG stonks holder? What's the most you paid for a card? What is the most a card you've owned has jumped? Let us know in the comments to this show.
Down
below, EK will add in something fancy.
Yeah.
I think we touched on the really good points. Like, honestly, if you're looking to get something affordable, look for deals. Shop around. It is a craft, but if you need to get creative, proxy, test it. Save your cash until you know it's what you want.
Yeah. You don't want to spend $60 on that card only to just find out that the card isn't that good in your deck, or the card doesn't work how you want it to be.
Yeah, don't be like me with the Revi.
Yeah, effort put in beforehand is money saved after the fact.
Yeah. Well, friends,
and checking all of the boxes. I think that's the easiest way to sum up literally every possible everything.
I would definitely agree with that. Checking the boxes is the big thing. All right. Well, friends, you can find us on Twitter at DrawForTurn and YouTube at DrawForTurn. We post weekly discussion topics, so be sure to drop in and follow, get in on the action. Check out our YouTube. Check out some of the latest and hottest games that we've had going on with some celebs. EK's been doing a knock your socks off special effects that have just been really amazing, honestly.
We're going full on game nights on the next episode, by the way. I'm looking forward to it.
We have talking cards?
Yeah. We're gonna have animated cards, talking cards, like graphics, like the whole nine.
Oh boy.
I better get you more content then. I think I owe you like 4 episodes.
I have a game with Emma Skyward that I'm working on right now. And I clipped that 1/4 demon earlier and was working on animating that earlier, and I'm looking forward to everyone seeing it because it's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
I'm excited to see that. Adam, my dude, where can the fine people find you at?
You can drop me a follow at DES_Adam on Twitter, and I'm in my many Twitch chats at DES_Adam. Usual shout outs to Top Deck Games in Westmont, New Jersey, and the comic book store in Glassboro, New Jersey, as my usual spots of acquiring cardboard. Also, shout outs to Modfly Alters, who's working on another altar for me for my next another 2 altars for my next commander deck. Hopefully we'll be getting them next month. Yeah. Well, it's a partner deck, so I want to have partner commanders. So,
for sure.
I like. EK, my dude, what about you?
Same place as always, everywhere on the internet at EK Plays Cards. We are also streaming a lot more on Twitch, and those have been going insane, to be completely honest. Like, the response to the stream has been insane. Like, I hate to use the word insane, but like unbelievable. And like, I did not expect my return to streaming to be this crazy. So I'm looking forward to doing that more and more and more.
Dare I say we were waiting years for you, friend. Years.
Literally. Literally, we're waiting years. But anyway, shout out to my local game stores. As always, Games Plus in the Chicagoland area, Mark and Rusty at Next Ridge Games, who are my go-to Twitter game store. And then I got some cards from other people on Twitter over the last couple weeks as well that I want to shout out. That I mentioned earlier in the show. Harry at Harry's House of Cards, and then Liz, aka Devoted Druid. I got a couple little things here and there from them as well. And Mark recommended them, so I figured I'd give them a try, and they were lovely people. Can't say enough good things.
Beauty. Swazi, my dude, what about you?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SwazoDFT for Draw for Turn. And I'll also give a shout out to Next Ridge Games and my local Cool Stuff games. That's where I get my stuff and play when it's available.
Awesome. And friends, you can always find me on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Astos Flame. I'm doing the MTG Arena and motivation talks and commander games. I got the Fridays, EK's got the Saturdays, and we got a good thing going on.
There's gonna be a special Thursday this week too.
There is gonna be a special Thursday. I won't forget.
Yeah, we have a guest playing with us Friday.
We do. Yes, Soul Ring
Yes.
MTG is coming on Friday. I'm excited for that. She's bringing Veto.
Oh yeah, that's a card. That's a card I like a lot, actually.
I'm excited. She prefaced it new deck, so
okay.
I'm curious.
Before we close the show, can I just briefly soapbox for one moment?
Absolutely.
Friends, if you, I know like this, it's been over about a year now since we've all been mostly stuck at home. I know that's not the case for Swaddler because he works every day like a horse. Sorry, buddy. And I know there's like a real need to want to gather again and especially play our favorite game in person. If you're going to do that, please, just first of all, my preference is just wait a little bit longer. Wait until things are really safe. If you want to do that, please make sure you're but at all times, please follow your national and local health codes. Follow the advice of experts, and please keep yourself and those close to you safe at all as much as possible.
I think words cannot be said more true. Especially, things might be on the rise, but like Adam said, just be smart and be safe.
Yeah, I really like. We probably we're really close, y'all. Like, I really think we're gonna get there. Just we all need to just behave. Just keep it up just a little bit longer.
Well, I think with that, I'll just give a quick shout out to Harry Tarantula and Nexters Games for always supplying me with boxes and singles.
Sean's Harry Tarantula's favorite customer, for those of you who didn't know.
Damn Skippy. Well, friends, as always, remember to untap, upkeep, support your local game store, wear your mask, and draw for turn.